In the mountains of the tiny Republic of Montenegro, leaders of a traditional clan attend a village gathering. They are delivering a message. The clan will oppose any attempt by Montenegro's pro-Western government to become independent from Serbia. The clan vows its allegiance to Yugoslavia's president, Slobodan Milošević.
Ako nam neko razbija narodno jedinstvo I ruši državu, onda će to čitavoj Crnoj Gori donijeti nestabilnost sa teškim I nesagledivim posljedicama. Kao potomci junaka koji su svojom mudrošću I krvlju stvarali ovu državu, mi danas imamo svetu obavezu da branimo Crnu Goru.
A decade ago, Yugoslavia consisted of 6 republics. Slovenia, Croatia and Bosnia parted amid civil war. Montenegro and Serbia are all that's left. Clans were formed as military units in the 15th century to protect Slavic Christians from their Islamic enemies. Today, these clan members declare their loyalty to Serbia, though they were born and brought up in Montenegro. Here in the small Adriatic nation of Montenegro, the final act in the tragedy of Yugoslavia is unfolding. Twice during the last century, this fractured landscape witnessed civil war, etching a fault line that divides Montenegro today. In this wounded region, history is rarely laid to rest. Now Montenegro's past is being exhumed in a battle over the ethnic identity of those living on its territory. It's a dispute that could lead to the final and most brutal conflict yet to dismember Yugoslavia. A war that would pit brother against brother, father against son. Old Montenegro was hallowed territory for Slavic people, united in their faith, language and culture. The church was the government. The monastery in Montenegro's former capital of Cetinje was the seat of national defense. The faithful were warriors who fought the mighty Islamic empire of the Ottoman Turks. It was a nation forged to protect Christendom. Montenegro's leaders were bishops who carried the cross in one hand and the gun in the other. The skulls of their vanquished Islamic foes adorned the monastery tower.
It's in 1796.
Today, a trophy marking a famous victory 2 centuries ago remains in the monastery. Before battle, the bishop who then ruled Montenegro had sent a divine message to the commander of the Turkish army, Mahmud Pasha.
If I am guilty for this war, I want to die immediately, this night. If you are guilty, may the fire come from the heaven and burn you. So after the war, after the battle, they find Mahmud Pasha burned.
I can just see, Father, that the skull is broken there. What happened?
I think it was a saber.
He was struck down.
Yes, probably from the horse.
History and myth have blended into national folklore. Montenegro is the only region in the Balkans to have never been conquered by Muslims. 3 centuries ago, Montenegrins who had converted to Islam were told, "Be baptized or die." This act of faith is celebrated today as the reason why Montenegro survives as a Christian nation. The foundation of the modern state emerged during the late 18th century. In a region surrounding the monastery at Cetinje, bishops began to build the institutions of a central government. The territory of Montenegro had become a haven for Orthodox Christians. The head of the established faith in Montenegro today is Archbishop Amfilohije. He's known as a metropolitan in the Orthodox faith. He is also a believer that the Montenegrin nation doesn't exist. It is the Serbian church that is the official guardian of the faith in Montenegro today. The young are usually baptized into the Serbian nation. This is one side of a looking glass world where there are two parallel versions of history.
If we're talking about ethnic identity, in Montenegro it's well known, and there's plenty of evidence, that from ancient times Serbs have lived here. In fact, from the time of the Slavic immigration to the Balkans. This was a Serbian state, and has been since the Middle Ages.
According to this version of history, it was Serbs who found refuge in Montenegro's barren hills. Metropolitan Amfilohije believes his forefathers fled the yoke of Islam in order to rescue the Serbian nation.
During the Turkish attacks, all the Serbs, peasants and nobles, gathered in these mountains to try to preserve their faith. And it was here that a spark of freedom for the Serbs emerged. The Montenegrin metropolitans, in trying to recreate the country, were actually intent on creating a Slavic Serbian empire.
The alternative version of history chronicles the evolution of Montenegro as a separate nation-state. Bobo Bogdanovic runs a dance troupe that celebrates Montenegrin culture. He believes that Montenegro is distinct from Serbia and should become an independent nation.
The tradition of people from Montenegro and Cetinje proves without doubt we are an authentic nation. Many generations, especially during this century, had no idea about their true heritage, of the historical facts. It's precisely because of this ignorance that they've reached the point where they have no idea who they are. And the truth is that they are Montenegrins. They have always been Montenegrins, and they belong to a special country.
The belief in Montenegrin nationhood has grown during the past decade and has now become a potent political force. The man presiding over Montenegro's destiny is Milo Đukanović. He has edged his country toward greater independence from Serbia and committed his people to a referendum on their nationhood. But no date has been set for a referendum, and President Đukanović tries to embrace both sides of the division on national identity. He simply proposes a looser federation with Serbia. His most explicit goal is to develop closer ties with Western countries. Milo Đukanović began to favor greater independence after the breakdown of his relationship with the president of Yugoslavia, Slobodan Milošević. During his first decade in power, Milošević controlled Montenegro like a fiefdom, placing his own henchmen in power. Milo Đukanović was then a close ally. In 1997, everything changed. Đukanović challenged his mentor by contesting Montenegro's presidential election. He narrowly defeated Milosevic's chosen candidate. Milosevic's supporters tried to prevent Đukanović gaining power, and Montenegro was on the edge of civil war. The threat of conflict has remained ever since.
Our relationship changed because Milosevic's regime continually tries to destabilize the government of Montenegro and to bring into power people loyal to him. These people would help him keep Yugoslavia as a unified state and maintain Montenegro as a province for his own dictatorial ambitions.
Predrag Bulatović leads the party in Montenegro's parliament that is backed by Milosevic. It's called the Socialist People's Party. Its platform is to preserve Yugoslavia and the union with Serbia. Nearly a decade ago, against the wishes of most Serbs, Western countries recognized the independence of the former republics of Yugoslavia. Now the West is accused of helping to break up what is left of Yugoslavia.
Dragi mladi prijatelji, Socijalistička narodna partija Crne Gore će uraditi sve da namjere staranog faktora i sluganskog marionetskog režima Mila Đukanovića, koji ima namjeru da protivno volji građana Republike Crne Gore izdvoji Crnu Goru i Savezne Republike Jugoslavije, neće proći.
In Montenegro, many young Serbs have grown up believing that Milosevic is their defender and the outside world is their enemy. They have faced a decade of economic isolation, and last year NATO planes bombed Yugoslavia.
Ceo svet će na moju zemlju da kidiše. Rulje bivših ljudi, lopova i golja. Uzalud ćete linčovati najgostoljubiviji narod na planeti. Zbog čega ćete goreti u paklu?
The problem of fearful and angry Serbs living outside the borders of Serbia, the issue that set in motion Yugoslavia's wars, is present here as it was in Bosnia and Croatia. How dangerous might it be if there was a declaration of independence here?
If Mr. Đukanović tries to gain independence against the constitution, there will be civil war. All those who believe in Yugoslavia will have to oppose force with force.
Bobo Bogdanović is a standard-bearer for the new Montenegrin nationalism. He is committed to independence and aware of the price paid to achieve it elsewhere in Yugoslavia.
Jer treba biti mudar da se izbjegne ipak to krvoproliće bilo ubitačno, znaš. Ali ja mislim da ne možemo proći bez toga, nema šanse, to je sve... Kako to? Jer je sad samo važno i bitno je sve to napraviti u poziciji da budeš spreman, razumiješ?
Bobo Bogdanović is known as the General because of his role in a local militia. During the NATO bombing of Serbia and Montenegro, the Yugoslav army under the command of Milosevic was prevented from entering Cetinje. Bogdanovic's militia, supported by local police, had blocked the roads. There was a tense standoff.
Pokušali su da nas likvidiraju.
They tried to kill us.
Nažalost, to im nije uspjelo.
They failed then and will again.
Ja sam imao priliku da budem lično akter tog događaja.
I happened to become personally involved in the incident with my own men. The army attacked us early that morning. We responded as necessary. In the end, myself and two officers went to try to find a compromise so as to prevent bloodshed. But they tricked us and arrested me and those two decent men.
Shortly afterwards, Bogdanovich was released following the threat of armed rebellion by the people of Cetinje. The desire to defy Milosevic has bred a new conviction for independence that is backed by the gun.
We are certainly ready, trained and absolutely clear in our minds that our holy duty is to defend Montenegro when the time comes. The question is how big a price we must all pay and how it will end. We are absolutely ready to die for our country, because Montenegro is one distinct and individual country, and it belongs to us Montenegrins, and will defend it till the end.
During NATO's bombardment of Yugoslavia, several towns in Montenegro were damaged, though it was not targeted as heavily as Serbia. The war with the West sharpened the division of national identity. Montenegrins loyal to Slobodan Milosevic and to Serbia accuse of treachery fellow countrymen who supported NATO's military intervention. These people have always looked to the Yugoslav army for their defense. That now includes defending the union with Serbia, according to the commander of the Yugoslav army in Montenegro.
Nadahnjivali se slobodarskim tradicijama i neraskidivom povezanošću Srbije i Crne Gore. Suprotstavit ćemo se svakom agresoru, pobeđivali smo ga i do sada, a to ćemo činiti i u buduće ako bude trebalo.
There are several thousand Yugoslav soldiers stationed in Montenegro. An additional battalion has recently been formed, consisting only of Montenegrins loyal to Serbia.
Mr. Milosevic is now trying to destabilize Montenegro by forming a paramilitary force here. It's a force that is made out of people politically loyal to him, people who live in Montenegro and have their families here. These are the people who will be sacrificed in the conflict that will drag Montenegro into a bloody civil war. Mr. Milosevic will be the only one to profit from it. It is the party army of Mr. Milosevic and of the local chief of his branch in Montenegro, Mr. Bulatovic. It's not something new. Mr. Milosevic has always formed the same groups in his previous conflicts, with the aim of provoking internal fights.
Predrag Bulatovic denies that his party or the Yugoslav army has any aggressive role. During the NATO bombing, he believes he prevented the outbreak of civil war in Montenegro.
If we had believed in guns and violence, we could have removed Đukanović from power. 60,000 Montenegrins were in Yugoslav army uniform at that time. Đukanović didn't have any real power then. He was hiding out in a bunker and scared out of his wits. He had no control over Montenegro.
This is President Đukanovic's response. More than 15,000 special police officers that are loyal to him, a national army in all but name. Its primary role is to defend Montenegro from an attack ordered by Milosevic. In Montenegro, the logic of the gun is at the heart of political power.
That police force is not a run-of-the-mill police force. Aside from ordinary guns, they have heavy weapons and armored personnel carriers. And as a result of this, many people are starting to believe they must arm themselves in order to protect their families from their neighbors and so on. So Đukanović, by building up this police force, is increasing the political tension locally and making people arm themselves with weapons.
While old Montenegro was centered around Cetinje, the north and east was ruled by a patchwork of clans, a brotherhood of warriors with absolute loyalty to their tribe. The Rovci was one of the most powerful. At their homeland in the mountains, the Rovci clan begins a committee meeting with a traditional ballad. It recalls the clan's former glories on the battlefield. The clans accepted central Montenegrin authority only in the mid-19th century. Their influence survived but dwindled. Recently, Milosevic has rekindled clan identity so as to create an alternative power structure in Montenegro, one that can challenge President Đukanović. The former president of the clan was Milosevic's Minister of Defense. He was gunned down in a restaurant by unknown assassins earlier this year. Nikola Minic is the new leader. The clan is planning a memorial to honor his murdered predecessor. The meeting also confirms the holy duty of these men to defend the union with Serbia.
Ako Milo Đukanović bude htio da odvaja Crnu Goru, da mi nećemo u toj I takvoj Crnoj Gori, nego ćemo da budemo u sastavu bratskoga I bratskoga Srbije. Pavlu Bulatoviću.
In the past, Montenegro's scattered villages were held together by clan loyalty, a culture founded on honor and blood revenge, a fabled past that shapes the mentality today. This is a land where most adult men are armed, where the defense of their identity is elevated to a noble calling.
Ja nisam čuo ni od koga da se neko iz Rovaca ni potučio, ni pokatoličio, ni pocrnogorčio. Tako da moramo to da naglasimo u ovom momentu da Srbi iz Rovaca neće se crnogorčiti, pa makar ostali sami. Mi smo kroz našu, ajde da kažemo, kompletnu...
We have had many enemies throughout our history, so people gathered together helping each other as a means of common defense against these enemies. That's how the Rovci clan was formed. It's one of the purest Serbian clans in this territory. I can say this because we've never allowed the enemy to occupy our land.
Mi nikada nismo dali neprijatelju na nas.
Nikola Minic led us to the clan's most hallowed site, a mountainous hideout where, 700 years ago, the founder of the clan sought refuge from his enemies. According to tradition, the clan's founder was related to the Serbian ruling dynasty, and all members of the clan are said to have descended from him.
That's the reason we're rebelling. We want to live in one state and belong to one nation. They're now trying to divide us ethnically into Serbs and Montenegrins. Montenegro is just a postal address, and they're all Serbs, we're all one nation. We will even give up our lives to defend what is ours, even if it's only our ancestors' cave. If we lose that, we lose our identity. That's all there is to it.
We call these people confused clan sorcerers. They are common cowards. These people have no sense of morals or respect for their country. These are people who believe that they are intrinsically linked to Belgrade and Slobodan Milosevic's fascist and genocidal ideas.
Jedna fašizoidna ideja Slobodana Miloševića, jedna genocidna ideja koju preferira gospodin Milošević.
Srbi kroz istoriju, to se dobro zna.
Throughout history, it's never been said that Serbs were cowards. By saying this, he just shows how ignorant he is.
Neznanje pravo, jer Bobo Bogdanović nije ništa.
Bobo Bogdanović is a Serb and nothing else. He might well hope to be Japanese, but that's his problem. The truth is, as a man born and bred in Cetinje, he can't be anything else. He's a Serb.
Yet Cetinje is at the center of the recent revival in Montenegrin nationalism. It became the capital of an independent nation in 1878, when Montenegro was recognized as a separate country by the outside world. It's a town of former parliaments and palaces, as well as embassies from around the world. The old British consulate is now a music school. Nearby is the home of the former Serbian mission to Montenegro.
Ova zgrada je potvrda da je Srbija bila tuđa zemlja i ta država je u Crnogorskoj nezavisnoj državi imala svoju administraciju i svoje konzularno predstavništvo na nivou ambasade. Dakle, čim jedna zemlja ima ambasadu u drugoj zemlji, to je znak da su to dvije nezavisne suverene zemlje.
After the First World War, the status of Montenegro was to change dramatically. At a meeting in an old cigarette factory, Montenegro was blotted off the map. A parliament of clan leaders declared Montenegro Serbian territory. We have the same blood, language and aspiration, it said. Montenegrins apparently faced a stark choice. Many Montenegrins believed they would be better off as part of Serbia. The fault line in Montenegro emerged. Montenegro's king was forced to flee abroad. The country's church lost its independence. Serb soldiers spent a decade crushing a rebellion by Montenegrins who were fighting to restore their monarchy. After the Second World War, the communist leader Marshal Tito established today's Montenegro within the former Yugoslavia. Tito's communism silenced both Montenegrin and Serb nationalism. The end of communism reawakened the Serbian Orthodox Church. Within Cetinje's monastery, there is a belief that Tito wanted to prevent an united Serb nation emerging in the Balkans.
If we're talking about national identity, only Serbs were living here until 1945. Even Cetinje itself was known as a haven for Serbian liberty. It was only after 1945 that the communists tried to create a separate Montenegrin state with their new Marxist theories of nationhood. At the same time, they created some other countries too, all of which had never existed before in the Balkans.
The divisions hewn from former wars are reviving in Cetinje today. Neighbors believe they live in different countries. The church is at the heart of the divide.
More than 80 years ago, Montenegrins had their own independent church. Today, unfortunately, this holy Montenegrin shrine is occupied by the Serbian Orthodox Church, led by Amfilohije. These people have no sense of spirituality at all. They are following a monstrous and genocidal policy intent on destroying other nations. Unfortunately, they are still in control of our monastery, of our holy place.
A short distance away, behind the net curtains of a suburban house, is a congregation that is hoping to make the monastery its new home. Metropolitan Mihailo leads the Montenegrin Orthodox Church, a revival of the church that was absorbed into Serbian Orthodoxy when Montenegro lost its independence. This year it performed the liturgy for the first time since 1920. The canons of this faith are identical to that of the Serbian Church, only the emblem of nationhood is different.
In Russia, there's a Russian Orthodox Church, not a Serbian Orthodox Church. In Bulgaria, it's a Bulgarian church. In Serbia, it's Serbian, not Montenegrin. But here, the Serbian Orthodox Church is trying to deny our existence, not for religious reasons, but for political reasons, just as it did in 1920. We won't let this happen.
The revival of the Montenegrin Orthodox Church has ignited the wrath of its Serbian namesake. Metropolitan Mihailo has been cursed, condemned as godless, and his church described as a cult. He is referred to by his lay name, Dedaic.
As for that group of people who consider themselves a church, that man Dedaic, who's their leader, isn't even recognized as a priest by anyone in the Orthodox faith. In addition, another of the monks got married and now has children. That means he has violated his oaths.
It's obvious from Mr. Amfilochi's behavior that he needs to be examined by a psychologist. Every day that becomes more and more obvious, and I think that the citizens of Montenegro can see that too. You can see it from the way he's behaving. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't say something specific about him. I can only say that because of everything that he is doing, he is definitely mentally unstable.
Metropolitan Amfilohia conducts a service in a faith, culture and language that he calls Serbian. It is the same faith, culture and language that Montenegrin nationalists claim is theirs. It is a mirror image world without a middle ground, where each side is intent on demonizing the other. The Montenegrin church distributes a book entitled The Crimes of Amfilohia. It portrays him as a committed Serb nationalist and includes accounts of meetings with indicted war criminals. A picture records a visit to Cetinje monastery by a notorious paramilitary leader known as Arkan. Arkan was wanted for war crimes until his recent murder. A caricature shows Metropolitan Amfilohia marching the Serbian Orthodox Church off to war in Bosnia.
If that book was read by leaders and politicians in Europe, I'm sure that the Hague Tribunal would then accuse one man in particular of responsibility for a number of misfortunes in former Yugoslavia during this unfortunate bloody civil war. Mr. Amfilohia should be called to account by the Hague Tribunal. I think it should happen, and it will. People should be warned, because Mr. Amfilohia wants to provoke the same crisis in Montenegro as occurred in former Yugoslavia.
You know what's really behind that? They think that they could realize their goals by discrediting me as Metropolitan. Because I represent this district and all the clergy here, I am the symbol of its unity, a guarantor of its legitimacy. The main point is that now we have some form of paganism where God has been transformed into a God of nationalism. Now people can even make a profit from attacking me. They can earn themselves a crust. But in doing so, they forfeit their souls and sense of honor for poisoning the minds of innocent people. That is their sin before God.
The welter of insults underpins a more serious conflict, the battle for the control of Montenegro's more than 600 churches. The chapel at the village of Tomici is now administered by the Montenegrin Church. The faithful here support independence and claim that their church is the rightful owner of all places of worship built before 1920, when Serbia took them over.
Vjerujem da se Gospod okrenuo i prema Crnoj Gori i svima Crnogorcima i Crnogorkama koje žive u njoj, koje žive u Crnoj Gori. Vjerujem i blizu je spas Crne Gore.
They are brutally trying to steal property belonging to an institution that is even older than Montenegro itself. We can't understand it, but in our world everything is possible. It's clear to everyone who knows the mentality of Montenegrins, knows how we are, that this could be a challenge to civil war.
Two national groups share the same territory, the same icons, the same past, but each claim them as their own. A wound is reopened, and the contradictions inherent in the formation of this nation-state lay bare.
Mi nećemo dozvoliti da neka sekta.
We won't allow some sect under someone else's control to take over the sanctities of the Serbian Orthodox Church. If they tried to do that, they'd have to kill all the people from Rovci, not just those who live in Montenegro, but also those who live in Serbia. This is taking on the characteristics of a religious war. If someone tries to change our identity by force, as they're trying now, can you imagine what sort of war this will be?
The final battle of Yugoslavia is now enacted through tentative, nervous displays of power. On the border that divides the two countries, the Serbian government has enforced an economic blockade. It was a response to the Montenegrin decision to end its use of the Serbian currency. Then Milo Djukanovic's security advisor was gunned down outside his flat. The Montenegrin president accuses Milosevic of using the same tactics as he did before war broke out in Slovenia.
When he started the economic blockade of Slovenia, the international community imposed strong sanctions. Then he started a war in Bosnia, and this ended with NATO's intervention in Kosovo. Today, 10 years later, Mr. Milosevic continues to provoke Montenegro with the same bag of tricks. Obviously, Milosevic is playing a dangerous game. I think he's aware it's dangerous, but he doesn't care about the final cost.
Milosevic can benefit from crises. In the past, he has strengthened his position as leader of the Serbian people by triggering conflict. The potential for crises in the region remains. In Kosovo, the West has failed to protect the Serb minority. The province is officially part of Serbia, but its future status is a political time bomb. Meanwhile, Milosevic is running for re-election as president of Yugoslavia in late September. If he is in danger of losing power, he could spark a constitutional crisis in Montenegro in order to secure his political survival in Serbia. Montenegro now inhabits a tense, unstable limbo. The growth of radical Serb nationalism under Milosevic has revived its Montenegrin counterpart. Milo Djukanovic has opened the door of independence, one that can't easily be closed.
The genie is out of the bottle. It's obvious there is a growing desire for independence amongst Montenegrins. All the research has shown that more than 1/3 of the voting public in Montenegro believe this. So I agree that even if somebody tried, there is no way the genie could be put back in the bottle again.
In Cetinje, Bobo Bogdanovic and his militia are now under the command of Montenegro's special police. This is a fragile, impatient country. The threat of attack from Milosevic has fanned an intoxicating desire for independence.
When the time comes, all these normal people who are now going about their daily lives will suddenly become proper soldiers and the backbone of Montenegro's defense. Right now, they live a normal life in every way. And at the crucial moment, these young, beautiful people will become responsible for their actions and aware of the cause they are fighting for. This is Montenegro's biggest strength. We will be the first to fight and will be killed. Our children will continue the fight, and our mothers and sisters too. They'll only win if they kill us all. But this will never happen in Montenegro.
The Yugoslav army celebrates its role defending Montenegro against the Nazis during the Second World War. These men are former soldiers. they stand alongside their political leadership, believing today that the Yugoslav army will preserve Montenegro's unity with Serbia. The ceremony is organized by a pro-Serb clan and marks the bravery of one of its former members.
Zar mi imamo igdje ikoga bližega na svijetu od naše braće Srbijanaca? Zar ogroman broj našeg naroda i Crne Gore ne živi u Srbiji? Zar nam nije jedna jedina sveta srpska pravoslavna crkva zajednička? Zar hoćemo da dočekamo prekor i kaznu naših predaka koji su vjekovima ginuli za ono što se i danas brani? Nemamo i nećemo.
Ukazala mi se velika čast i počast da govorim o dijelu.
Mi smo samovoljno ušli u sastav Crne Gore. A znači
We, the clans, became part of Montenegro through our own free will.
bez naše saglasnosti i bez da nas pita.
But now they think that they can act without our agreement, without our permission.
Da vam kažem da
We've got to the point where any further push towards an independent Montenegro would mean a call to arms for all of us from the Rovci clan.
nas Rovčane znači poziv na oružje.
The Serbian Orthodox Church is now at one with many former communists who in the past had their faith in Yugoslavia. They are united in defense of the Serbian people. The Serbs of Montenegro believe that the preservation of Yugoslavia is essential to safeguard their identity.
Ako misle da slijepo slijede politiku iz Beograda,
If they continue blindly to follow the politics of Belgrade and to persist with the belief that they are defending the lie that is Yugoslavia, then blood must flow.
što je jedna obična prevara, onda ta krv
And it will flow in rivers throughout Montenegro. Finally, once and for all, it will be decided whether Montenegro should exist or just remain an ornament of Belgrade and of Serbia.
treba da bude privjesak Beograda i Srbije. Ima oružja dosta.
There are a lot of weapons here. We're all armed, and when it comes down to it, the Yugoslav army is an occupying force in Montenegro.
Okupaciona vojska u Crnoj Gori.
The contradictory demands of nationhood remain glaringly unresolved in Montenegro's political debate. While the boundaries of the Serb nation remain disputed, the region will continue to provide Milosevic with an explosive mixture that he can ignite at will. The protracted agony of Yugoslavia's demise is not over yet. The one hope for this nation is that Montenegro's politicians witnessed at close range the bloodletting that ripped through the rest of Yugoslavia. They are acutely aware of what is at stake if war is unleashed on this land.